Welcome to Rant on Reels. I'm Michael Fooch.
And I'm Xavier Barnett.
On this episode, we will be reviewing the movie Captain Marvel, clearly the most anticipated Marvel movie of the year.
Oh, 100%. We got to also warn you guys, there's going to be major spoilers ahead for Captain Marvel and pretty much every other movie in the MCU. Because we might be relating this to some other big-time movie that's coming out. It's not as popular as Captain Marvel, though.
All right, Xavier, what are your opening thoughts on Captain Marvel?
I enjoyed it. It was a nice little finding myself type of story. That's how it feels, finding and believing in myself. That's how I felt about it.
Okay.
One of my favorite, I'll start right off the bat, one of my favorite scenes is when all her different versions of herself in the past, they all stand up and they're like, I always get back up, and made me immediately think of Rocky.
Huh. You know what? That's really true. I didn't even make that connection, but that was a very powerful scene in the movie. I really enjoyed the movie as well, and in a lot of ways, what this movie does, it follows that Marvel model. It doesn't really do anything different, and to me that's a success. The Marvel model is pretty good. It can't really be that bad if you decide to follow it. It had humor. Its plot was good. I personally thought the characters were developed very well.
Mm-hmm.
But what I enjoyed most, I really enjoyed the storytelling of this movie. I felt this movie was a very Christopher Nolan, or had a very Christopher Nolan type feel, like a Prestige or a Batman Begin, because we're in the present, but the most important things happen in the past, and we're slowly given that past as the movie goes forward. It kept you guessing what happened. It kept the if you like comic books and you know the story, it might not have been true. I had no idea who Captain Marvel was. So for me, it kept me guessing what's going on. Is she Kree? Is she human? I was trying to put this all together. So I found it fascinating. And I thought that was I think it keeps the audience engaged. You had to think again, like I said, if you're a comic book fan, it might have been very obvious. Did you find it obvious?
I'm not. So Captain Marvel is one of the few heroes that I didn't really follow. Like now, well, I guess then she was known as Miss Marvel, but I never really followed like Cosmic Marvel back in the day because he was always out in space and stuff. So I wasn't a huge follower.
Did you find it like it wasn't very obvious what was going to happen? Did you like the piecing together of it?
I like the piecing together. I know a little bit of her story past, so I had an idea of what was going to happen, but it was interesting to me because I don't really know her full story. So.
And not even the storytelling I liked. I like the plot, and Xavier touched upon it a little bit, but the plot is kind of what it means to be human. Xavier told the scene about where they stand up, but it's about being knocked down and being able to get back up. Humans and their insecurities on failing at things in life, and the character Carol Danvers fails a lot, but every time she fails, she gets back up, and I really think that's a really important element to this movie and what I liked about it. It takes place in the 90s, and the music was fantastic. You had some Nirvana, Come As You Are. It's a little Guardians, right? Guardians from like the 80s. This one, you got like some 90s, some No Doubt, some Salt and Pepper. It's really good. And I'll say this. This movie's kind of getting a bad rap right now. And I think the problem is that there's this desire to compare every Marvel movie. And I'm not going to come here and say this is a top 10 Marvel movie. It might not even be a top 15 Marvel movie. But this isn't really supposed to be, I don't think. This is a movie to introduce a character. It's an origin story, which tend not to be the best stories, right? We don't love the origin stories. We like let's get him right into the meat and potatoes of the story. But this wasn't what it was going to be. So I don't think it's supposed to be I don't think it's supposed to be the best Marvel movie, but I think it does a very good job in what it's trying to do.
See, you made a very fair point about that, because I'll bring it back to like Thor. Like the first two Thor movies, I'm not a big fan of. They're not really great. Like not great. They're not up to Marvel standards in my opinion. But when you get to that third one, it was amazing. But we needed those two movies to set up the characters, to get people to know the characters, develop them properly. And then you can't have a Thor Ragnarok if you don't have the first two, right? Thor is an origin story, Thor the Dark World, right? So, in my opinion, I totally agree with what you're saying. So that's why I'm not too upset about it, right?
Well, a good origin story is, think of it like as the foundation. If the better your foundation, the the more you can build on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie does a very good job setting foundation for the MCU to continue to build forward.
Yeah.
And again, not going to be the greatest movie, but it was for what it was. I really liked it. All right, so those are our opening thoughts. They're a little bit longer than normal, but there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack in this movie.
Yes.
And I want to start with, what were your thoughts on the opening? What were your impressions on the opening of this movie?
The opening where she.
Were we watching the same movie? She?
Not she.
I'm talking. Sorry, I'm sorry. I was really impressed. I think Marvel did the right thing with their opening. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
Oh,
The
with
Stan Lee.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
You
The
wanna-
whole time I thought, okay. I was like, what do you mean the movie?
Well,
like, I'm trying to remember where the
Marvel
movie
did something different. So when we get that Marvel credit, they've started showing all this little superheroes in the Marvel letters as they're playing their corporation logo. Well, they decided to do something a little bit different this time. Instead of using the superheroes, they used a lot of the Stan Lee cameos, as well as him interacting with the actors out on like the red carpet. And then there was a thank you Stan before it.
It was really well done, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty heartwarming. He helped me a lot in my childhood and he created one of my most favorite characters ever. So,
I was so impressed. I thought Marvel did the right thing with this. I thought it was classy. I was a little disappointed with our theater though. It took them a while for the claps, and it wasn't like it was only like half the theater that was clapping for it. And I feel like on a midnight showing, or like the first showing of a movie, like that's your hardcore fans. There should have been more clapping. That's a little bit of a rant off topic. Do you think this was enough by Marvel though?
I think it's enough. I mean, I thought the way I see it is that's a good way to pay homage, right? It would have been better on the end game though.
I think that this was enough for the first movie they've released since his death.
Yeah.
I think they will do something for Endgame.
Yeah.
I think maybe something as an end credit scene, because I feel like Endgame will be more of a closure to Phase 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what we'll get at the end of Endgame is more, okay, so we're done with this. Now let's do something in the end for Stan, something special, like Deadpool or Once Upon a Deadpool did at the end of that movie.
Okay.
So I think we could see that, or they could do it after Homecoming for his final, right? Not Homecoming, sorry, Far From Home.
Far From Home.
So they have a lot of options. Is
Yeah.
the point. Okay, so now let's get into the movie, the actual movie. So the movie begins with an introduction to Veers, or Carol Danvers, and to the Kree homeworld. We'll call her Veers until we know otherwise. So it begins with this dream sequence. And Veers is kind of covered in this blue blood, and this Skrull comes and shoots Dr. Wendy Larson, who is played by Annette Bening, and points the gun at her. And I think we're like, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Like, this is a giant crash.
And there's sand flying around.
Yeah.
This is, I think, very Christopher Nolan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Veers wakes up. So this is a dream, and clearly it's a memory of hers. So she's not sleeping very well. She goes to knock on Jan Rog's door, who is her commander.
Commander, mentor.
And they go train. And we find out quickly that her goal is to be a Kree hero warrior.
Noble hero warriors.
Yeah. Right? Just this hero warrior that fight these evil Skrulls. And her problem is she has these abilities that she thinks were given to her by the Kree, and there's a device on her neck that
limits her powers.
Or that what she thinks
makes her. Yes.
She thinks what gives her powers.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your thoughts on this introduction?
I liked it. It was a nice little rant, getting to know what her character's about, like how long, what she's been. Well, because I know what happens with Miss Marvel. what she's been doing while she's trying to remember her past and everything like that.
What I liked about this movie kind of sets up her character. And a lot of people are going to criticize this about her character, but it makes sense. She's being trained to be a warrior, a soldier.
Yeah.
They are trying to take her emotions away. And we know that she has no memory of her earlier life. She's been on Hala is the planet?
Yeah.
Hala for the last 6 years. And they basically try to strip her down of her emotions. Don't laugh. Don't feel anything. Be a warrior, like all the other warriors, right? Like when we meet the rest of Star Force, this elite command force led by Yon Rog, who is played by Jude Law, they are all emotionless, right? And that's what they're trying to turn Veers into, who has a hard time because she's very sarcastic and very,
very human.
Yeah,
they're trying to take the human away from her.
It is exactly what they're trying to do. So, and a lot of people are gonna say, well, she's so one-dimensional. There's a reason she's one-dimensional. She's one-dimensional because she's been trained for 6 years to be like this. Now, you hope over the last 23 years or 25 years or however long it's been since this movie that she's developed more of her own emotions as she's kind of refined herself. But that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I didn't hate her character. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, some of her one-liners are kind of lame, but
it's the 90s. If anyone here grew up in the 90s can be defined in one word: cheesy. Everything about the 90s, the clothes, the one-liners, the music, it was all cheesy, and I loved every second of it.
I think that's just the nostalgia goggles talking.
But that's what that is. Like, go watch any program from the 90s. It's cheesy. Whereas when you think of the 2000s more dark, the 90s was all just happy-go-lucky cheesy, like 90210. Like that's what we grew up with. R.M.P.
Rest in peace, Luke Perry.
Yeah. Nevertheless, so Veers has a hard time keeping these emotions in check because she is human at the end of the day, as we find out later in the movie. And all she wants to do is join the Star Force. So she gets this opportunity to see the Supreme Intelligence. Now, I have no idea. I've never heard of this thing. What is the Supreme Intelligence, Mr. Comic Book?
So the Supreme Intelligence is one of the leaders of the Kree. There's always changes. So there's the Supreme Intelligence. I forget who else was. Like I said, I'm not a big follower of the cosmic part of Marvel. And I never read the Fantastic Four much, so that's where the Kree and the Skrulls were really introduced. But yeah, it's pretty much the leader of the Kree, and it's an AI.
It's not Ronan.
No.
So when I was watching this movie, I assumed it was Ronan. I assumed Ronan was the leader of the Kree.
No.
Everyone
answers to the Supreme Intelligence.
So Ronan is in this movie. Is he just a
he's
general?
A special force. Yeah, he's
he's like a Ranyog. He does his own thing.
Yeah, he has a different thing. Like they're called the Accusers, so they just bomb and stuff like that.
Okay, hence why Ronan the Accuser makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
He accuses people.
And now
with bombs.
Well, one of the reasons I was struggling with what the Supreme Leader was, or what the Supreme Intelligence was, is she doesn't show herself to anyone. She shows herself through.
It's not a she. It's an it.
It shows itself through something you love. So for Veers, who when she goes to see it, it's in Dr. Wendy Lawson, the girl from her dream. This is the first time she's seen the Supreme Intelligence, and she's confused by it. She's like, "Wait a minute, I don't even know who you are, and you're supposed to be the person who matters most to me." So she has this problem with controlling her emotions, and the Supreme Intelligence says, "I'm going to give you your mission, but just remember, if you let me down, we're taking your powers away."
Yeah, and she's like, "What? No way."
I found this scene to be interesting. So after this, she goes and she puts on her Star Force uniform. She's all happy to be there. She's walking in all seriousness with the rest of the crew onto the ship. And she's the only one telling jokes while everyone else is so serious. So, do you think that this is out of place?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think it's out of place because it explains that she's still a human, right? They have a bunch of other people that have been integrated into the Kree Noble Warriors. So they're just thinking like, oh, like this is just another mission. They kind of look like they hate their jobs, but
Yeah. But again, very, very military, very
mhm,
serious. So they go on this mission, and it turns out to be an ambush by the Skrulls.
mhm.
And Veers gets captured, and during this capture, she goes into her memories, and we get these gauges, these visions of the past, and we have this narrator, the leader of the Skrulls, the
Talos.
Talos, and he's like, "Not there. Go back further. Go in the future." And she's kind of like, "Where am I?" Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
she's like,
Deja
what's
vu.
going
Like,
on?
are you what am I seeing here? Because she doesn't have any memories. So she eventually gets control and becomes cognizant of what's happening, and we find out the Skrulls are actually looking for Dr. Wendy Lawson,
Hmm.
who we think is a human.
Yes.
Now, when she wakes up, she is tied upside down. Hands are so she can't shoot the proton blast.
Proton blast.
They're like wrapped in this metal, and she breaks free. But her hands, she can't use them, so
She's punching. She's punching really hard.
punching her way out, and eventually she uses her powers as much as she can and destroys the ship.
Yeah.
And she's able to get to a lifeboat,
A life pod.
a life pod,
Escape pod. Come on,
just
man.
in time. I know. You think I would know this? I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
Get to the escape pod.
Not chopper.
And she breaks free, but the escape pod is damaged, and as she's falling, she falls to Earth, or C-53 in this movie, and lands in a blockbuster.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Again,
That's in the trailer.
nostalgia goggles. I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't know this.
Yeah, that was in the trailer though. So if you
So-
saw the trailer, you would have known.
She asks a security guard where I can get communication equipment. The Radio Shack. More nostalgia goggles. And she uses a payphone and calls Yonrog, and they are 22 hours away. So Captain Marvel Veers is on her own.
Mhm.
And as this is going on, S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives. And I'm not going to lie, it was so good to see Agent Coulson back in the fold.
Yeah,
I love
young Agent Coulson.
Love Agent Coulson.
Did they use the anti-aging on him as well?
I don't know. I don't think he ages. He looks identical. Did you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all?
Yeah.
He looks identical now as he did when he was the first on Iron Man.
Wow.
But anyways, so Coulson and Fury arrive. And Fury has two eyes, which I was surprised for. I didn't watch a preview, so I didn't know that that he had two eyes at one point.
Do you like how his?
We'll talk about that when we get
later.
there. So they talk to Veers, who basically is telling them exactly what happened. I'm from a different planet, and there are aliens that have come to take the Earth.
Mm-hmm. They're shapeshifters. You can't trust them.
You can't trust them, and they're laughing at her and saying, "You're going to be under arrest."
Yeah.
But as this is going on, the shapeshifters, the Skrulls, attack.
Mm-hmm.
So she chases one of them, and we get this huge action sequence on a change. So Veers chases this train. I thought the sequence was very well done.
Yeah, it was interesting. I really liked the first introduction of the Skrulls. It was very interesting, and plus, watching them shapeshift, it was really cool seeing that aspect as well.
Very good CGI too.
Mm-hmm.
On the train, we get the Stan Lee cameo, which is he's reading the Mallrats,
Yeah.
the script, which was really cool. I really like the passengers, how they react to what's going on.
Yeah, that's something I really enjoyed.
So Veers walks through the train, and the Skrull has transformed into an old lady, and Veers knows that it's the old lady, so she looks right at her, eye to eye, and then she just grabs her fist and punches her in the face. So funny. And then the two fight. They fight on the train, and when she's got her knocked down and on top of her, and she's gonna kind of go for the final blow,
People grab her and stop her.
yeah,
Everyone keeps trying to stop, which is, guys, you're like, I mean, like, you would hope people would try to stop someone fighting an old lady, but I'm guessing, like, did you not see that old lady do flips and stuff? And, like, I don't know, that's not really,
or even just seeing, like, after, so, like, she, as transforms into one of the men on the train, and the man is looking as this scroll is transforming into himself, and it's like, huh, what am I just seeing here?
Yeah.
Just a funny sequence. While this is going on, Fury is in a car with Coulson, and they're trying to catch this train. And as this is going on, Fury gets a call on a walkie-talkie from Agent Coulson.
He's like, where are you?
I'm at the Blockbuster by myself, and the Coulson in the car is a Skrull, and there's a tussle between the two of them. An accident happens as an 18-wheeler hits or a garbage truck hits the car right on the Skrull side, and the Skrull dies.
Yeah, and it messes up Fury's eye a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a nice little scrape right on top of his eye.
And his eyes are like blood red.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
The sequence or just the crash?
The sequence.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it for the most part. I liked the first interaction with the Skrulls. I didn't it's not my favorite sequence in the movie, but it was good.
So from there, Veers is able to escape. Fury takes the Skrull or the dead Skrull, and they do an autopsy. And is it the director?
Yeah, the director
the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, basically tells Fury, go find Veers on your own. Don't tell anyone.
Because we can't trust them because they shapeshift.
But the director is actually Talos, the head shapeshifter, who plays himself, who plays Ben Mendelsohn, who is a fantastic actor.
Yeah,
and was so good in this role.
I'm like, that accent was great that he had in that role.
So good.
I was like, wow. I'm like, yeah. Is that his actual voice?
I think that's his actual voice.
Wow, that's way better. They should have him speak in that voice, not that.
So Fury meets Veers in a bar, and they form an alliance. We find out all of the information about the Skrulls that we need. That they're shapeshifters. That how you detect them is through old memories, because that's the one thing they can't figure out. Yeah. Your old memories. The DNA is the same. The blood would be the same. The fingerprints would be the same. The only way to figure out if they're a Skrull is to know their long-term memories.
Yeah, you have to. They can't remember recent memories.
And the two of them, they go into Fury's car, and they drive to the Pegasus facility where Dr. Larson worked. And this is the one scene I didn't really like about the movie. So they get to Pegasus headquarters, and they ask for Dr. Larson, and they get arrested.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. Like, he's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. He used his fingerprint to get in. Why would they arrest the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent?
Maybe it was the director's orders.
Maybe. I know they say because it was a cover up. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when he does escape and all the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents show up, they're like easy. They can move around, no problem.
That's a good question.
The one thing I really didn't like about this sequence. Either way, they break out, and as they're breaking out, Fury sends a message to the director that, "Come, I need backup. Like, help me out."
Uses the pager.
Yeah, the pager.
It's very significant.
Yeah, and as they're breaking out, they see this cat, Goose. Now, this is not the cat in the comics, because you know why they named him Goose.
Oh, this is a cat in the comics. There's a cat in the comics.
Yeah, she has Carol Danvers has a cat in the comics.
Oh.
But it's not Goose.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't remember the name of the comics, but I'll tell you this. Do you know why they renamed him Goose?
Why?
Take a guess.
Because Top Gun?
Yes, Top Gun. The pilot Anthony Edwards plays the Top Gun Goose. Solid, one of my favorite movies. So I like that aspect.
Oh, that's a little Easter egg.
So they go to the room for records. They grab all of the information on Lawson, and they realize that she was making a light ship, which is what light speed ship, which is what they think the Skrulls are after. But they canceled it, and Veers is like, "Why did they cancel this?" And Fury's like, "Oh, because she's crazy." But she's really Skrull. It's really Skrull writing, so they think Kree writing. Sorry, and it's like, Dr. Lawson was Kree.
Yes, the whole time.
And Fury says she's dead. and she disappeared 6 years ago with another pilot.
Whoa.
Dot, dot, dun, dun, dun.
That's a link.
So Fury steps out because S.H.I.E.L.D. has arrived. And Veers looks at the picture and sees herself. And she's like, oh my god. So when Fury sees the director, they're like, I want to talk to... Director's like, I want to talk to Veers alone.
Yeah.
And they go into the elevator, and the director calls Fury Nick.
Yeah, Nicholas.
And like nobody... And there was a whole scene about nobody calls me Nicholas.
Yeah, everyone calls me Fury.
So this allows Fury to understand that he's not actually the director because the long-term memory isn't there.
And then he asks him something about an
Havana.
operation they did.
In Havana.
And then he's like, yeah, Havana, ha ha ha. And he's like, yeah, this guy's not the right person.
So the two of them, Fury will eventually get into a fight, and Veers will save them, and the two of them will escape on a helicopter. And the cat comes with them.
Goose.
And the two go to New Orleans to see the only person that knows about this flight, Maria Rambo.
Maria Rambo.
Nice. So
nice
they go
job.
Now, Maria is Veers, or Carol Danvers' best friend.
Yes, from the army.
And they go to Maria's place, and her daughter recognize Carol right away. And Maria's like, it's like she's seen a ghost.
Yeah.
So they explain what happens, and Carol has no memory, that she has no memories, and they're kind of having a moment, and then the Skrulls arrive. But not in any disguise. He shows his true self. And he's like, I just want to talk. And Talos says, I didn't know who you were, otherwise I would have approached it differently. I thought you were a Kree, but it turns out you weren't Kree. That I have the black box of your crash 6 years ago, and you need to listen to it. So as the black box is playing, Veers, or Carol now,
her memory starts to jog.
So she remembered. And it wasn't a Skrull that killed Dr. Lawson.
Who was it?
It was...
Who was it?
Drumroll, Yonrog.
Whoa. Plot twist.
Did you see that one coming?
At
the beginning of the movie, did you see it coming?
The beginning of the movie? Well, I know the past, so if I didn't know, I would have guessed it. I wouldn't have guessed it, but I kind of knew because
I suspected that Yonrog was not a good character, but I didn't think he was going to be the one who killed Dr. Lawson.
Yeah, he's shady.
He seemed shady, right?
And then there was a hint because the one girl said, "Have you been to Earth before?"
Oh, absolutely.
And then she's like, "Yeah, it's dirtball."
No, he didn't use that word.
Well, I'm not going to say what
a beep hole.
Yeah.
A little reference to our current political climate, which our theater laughed hard on that scene. So Carol is now is torn. Her entire, at least, memory of the last 6 years has been
manipulated.
They were manipulated. The Kree are the villains? Question mark.
Villains, yeah, they recreated her. They're the antagonists, I would say.
In this movie, they are. But you told me in the comics that they're both villains, both the Skrulls and the Kree?
Yeah, they're both villains in the comics.
So she decides, after going through this moral search and Maria helping her, that she's going to help the Skrulls. And as this is going on, Yonrog returns and realizes that Carol has all of her memories back.
Yeah.
So he calls his buddy Ronan and the accusers to come to help.
Bomb Earth.
Now Carol and the Skrulls, as well as Maria, and Fury, they go to the light ship. What were your thoughts on Maria going? Because I know that you weren't big on this idea, right?
No, I didn't. She wasn't super needed, but I guess, like, what was her purpose there? Did she do anything?
Yeah, 100%. She's the one who flew everyone back.
Yeah, but everyone else can fly. Like, Tails can fly.
Are you sure? A human spacecraft? A human spacecraft?
It wasn't a human spacecraft. It was like a alien spacecraft, wasn't it?
No, that was the one that they stole from the Pegasus lab.
Yeah, that's not human. That was like Kree made because it's everything from Pegasus is based off of Kree knowledge, right?
Yeah, but would the Kree know how to? Would the Skrulls know how to fly Kree technology?
Of course they do. They're shapeshifters.
See, I liked it. I liked it a lot. This is her dream job. You know, one of the things this movie does very subtly, and we'll talk about this when we get to our questions about is it a social justice movie, is it deals with women in the military. And in 1989, when this movie takes place, women were not allowed to fight combat missions. I remember, like, when I was in high school, this was a big issue. Should women be allowed to be in combat? And, you know, like, you have Carol Danvers and Maria Rambo as two pilots that just want to fly combat missions, and they're not able to.
Yeah, they can only do flight.
They can only do simulations and
test
flights and things like that. So, you know, this was her opportunity to be the hero, which is what she signed up for when she joined the military. So I thought this was poetic justice and a very subtle way to talk about or to deal with, you know, women's rights.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I really like that.
And
you know, like, I know, like, Haroon was really hard on this, but she's got a daughter. Whatever. She had a daughter when she joined the army, right? The daughter was 6 years old 6 years ago. So, and she was still flying these missions. And, you know, the daughter saying, like, don't you want me to be proud? How do you want me to be raised? Someone who is going to sit at home and watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or someone who's going to go make a difference in the world? So
wow.
So I liked it. I thought it was important, and I mean she's a co-pilot, right? Like, those ships, there was room for two pilots.
Yeah.
It wasn't an aircraft.
They did it
It
together.
wasn't a fighter where there's one pilot. You could have two.
I love how they kept that aspect of how Carol Danvers was a pilot. Like, she's one of the best flyers in the Marvel universe.
Good. I liked it too. I thought she was fantastic.
Even though she doesn't need it.
The cat also joins them, and Talos is terrified of this cat. And they're like, that's not a cat.
That's a flogging.
And I'm like, what the hell's a flogging? And I'm just like, okay.
I thought it was Alien for cat, to be honest.
I thought so too. That's exactly what I thought. Oh. So, because Talos is afraid of the cat, Fury loves this cat. Mm-hmm. Fury's been petting this cat since the beginning. So they go to this ship, and it's not a Lightspeed ship. Or it might be a Lightspeed ship, but that's not the purpose or why Talos wants it. Mm-hmm. He's been dying to get to this ship for 6 years because it's a refugee ship for the Skrulls. And his wife and his daughter. Daughter, I think.
I don't know. Some people say I thought it was a daughter, but some people on the in the comments are saying it's his son.
Whatever. His child, who he's never met or didn't see since he was a baby, or she was a baby, was on it. And the power of the ship is the Tesseract. I
was like, whoa!
So that
makes sense. It's Lightspeed though.
Yes,
because the Tesseract is
the
space stone.
Yeah, it lets you travel right across the universes and galaxies.
Yeah,
so as they are there and they're having their reunion, Yon-Rogg arrives with his Star Force, and they capture everybody because they've taken away Carol's powers, right? She can't use them because of the device in her neck.
Plus, he's being brainwashed by the Supreme Intelligence.
Yes. So the Skrulls get thrown into a cell. The humans are going to be thrown out the ship just through the air vent, and Carol is put into the virtual reality to see the Supreme Intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I really like this scene because when she goes to see, you know, it's Wendy Larson who she sees, and she's basically saying that we gave you your power so you can't use it. And then she shows her Carol every aspect of her childhood that she has fallen.
Yeah, every time she's failed.
Every time, which I found fascinating. And then she throws her on the ground and says, "You're just human." And then it's a light switch that goes off into Carol's head. Mm-hmm. And she remembers. Every one of those times, yes, she did fall. But every one of those times, she got back up.
She roused
and
to
she
the
realized
occasion.
that it was humanity that helped her out. And she ripped the device off her neck, and broke out of the virtual reality.
And while this is going on, she's like floating, and the ship's losing all its power and stuff, and then she's full. Which, if I was one of those guys there, I probably would have shot her in the head. Just watching that happen, like why didn't anybody?
Because they probably had orders not to shoot, right?
That's true.
So she escapes. She gives the Tesseract to the humans, or to Maria and Fury, and says, "Take the Skrulls and get out of here. I'll create a
Flargan
version."
eats it.
Yes, and we find out what a Flargan is actually a different species, and it's like it has octopus tentacles that eat things.
Eats people. That's
So-
not a good way to go.
As the humans escape, Carol becomes the superhero she is.
Mm-hmm.
And she cleans up all of the Star Force. Big, huge battle sequence. Yon-Rogg escapes to Earth on a ship. And kind of Carol goes to grab it.
Yeah.
But space. And she falls as she looked like she should fall into her death. At the last second, her eyes awaken.
Her eyes light up and she goes like...
And we know she's going to fly.
I knew she flies, so
yeah,
that's how
I had a feeling. So she flies around, knocks Yon-Rogg's ship to the ground. The humans escape, and then Ronan's ship arrives, shoots his missiles to Earth. She takes one missile, throws it back, explodes them all. Comes to space, breaks down a ship, gives like the "This is my planet, go away" kind of speech.
Yeah.
And then Ronan leaves, saying that I will come back to, finish this at some point, and or for Captain Marvel, and then she throws. She goes back to confront Yon-Rogg, and basically says Yon-Rogg's like, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Veers.
Yeah.
This is so good. Now let's fight, mano a mano." And then we get the Indiana Jones moment where she just uses her fires at him. Yeah. And then says, "I don't need to fight you. I don't need you.
I don't need to prove anything.
Nothing." She puts him into the ship and says, right, "I'm coming to end the war." Oh, perfect scene. So then we have a dinner at Maria's. It's Talos, his family, Maria, Fury, Carol. Something we should know about Fury is on the way back, the cat or the fluke scratched his eye and that's going to become an important aspect of the entire universe.
Yeah. That's where he gets.
What are your thoughts on that? On how he loses the eye?
In my opinion, it's lame.
See, I liked it. That. See, why do you think it's lame?
He got scratched in the face by like a cat or a Flargan.
But that's it, right? Like, if it was a big, to me, if it was a big thing, if it was a big issue, he would tell people. But the fact that no one knows how he had lost his eye, it needed to be something small. It needed to be something stupid, because it's more. It makes more sense.
Fair enough, but in the comics, like Nick Fury's super secretive, so he never really tells anyone anything. So that's why.
So how would you have liked to him to lose his eye then?
Something cool, shot in the eye or freaking stabbed in the eye by a lightsaber.
A lightsaber.
Fighting 5 Skrulls at once.
I'm just gonna go back to my.
Not scratched in the face.
So at dinner, Carol says she's gonna find the Skrull a home, and gives Fury the device that we see at the end of Infinity War, and says emergencies only. She says goodbye to Maria and her daughter, and then she leaves. Mm-hmm. We go back to Fury in his office, and he's about to write the Protector Initiative. But then he sees the picture of Carol again, and her call sign is Carol Avenger Danvers.
Yeah. Then he writes the Avenger Initiative.
What'd you think of that? I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, because you're a Marvel fanboy.
What is it Marvel fanboy about
I'm
this?
Just
it makes sense. Why call it the Avenger Initiative?
I don't know.
This is a reason, isn't it?
It's a good read. I guess it's. I'm okay with it.
It's not crazy out there. It's not like I don't think they forced this.
Was Captain America called the first Avenger though?
He
Was
was
he
the
not?
that they call him.
Or is
No,
that
no,
just the
that's the
title
title
of
of
the
the
movie?
movie. They never
Okay.
actually call him. They never say he's an Avenger in that movie. In fact, if you want to go play by the comic books, the Captain America isn't even in the original Avengers. So
Oh, look at this guy. He's dropping some knowledge on
let's
us,
call
eh?
this what it is, okay?
I didn't know you knew that. Okay.
Yeah,
Respect to that.
just the
Okay.
title of the movie. That's all it is.
You must have read that. You Googled it, didn't you?
No, when the first Avengers was coming out, I was reading like the Hulk was the original leader of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it was more reading about like
okay.
that. I never actually read the comics, but
Yeah.
definitely learned that. So I liked it. I did. I thought it was neat and tidy. So then we get the mid-credit scene, and it's clearly a scene from Endgame where we have Captain America, Black Widow, Bruce Banner, and War Machine. They're watching this pager, and the pager has turned off. And they're like, we need to turn it back on. We don't know what it is, but clearly Fury did it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Black Widow turns around, and we see...
Where's
Carol
Nick Fury?
Danvers. Where's Fury? And then bam, done. And then the end credit scene is just
The guy toughening up the Tesseract.
So
I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
What do you think of how she got her superpowers?
I got no problem with it. Why is that?
No, I don't have a problem. I liked it. At first, I didn't like it, but then I thought about it because the engine is powered by an Infinity Stone. So that's the reason why she's so powerful the way she is, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot more sense now to me.
Well, Haroon tried to get me to try to criticize it by saying, but if the engine's just a Tesseract machine, why when the like Red Skull's machine in First Avenger blew up, no one became one or got those powers? And I tried to explain to him, I'm like, but it's probably mixed with Kree technology. The way the engine was built was different.
Yeah, it was also mixed with Kree technology as well, right? So that's why I think it worked, because I'm like, okay, she got powered from the Kree technology. Plus, she wasn't stable when it happened. Like they had to run an operation to save her because she wasn't fully stable when that happened, right?
Yeah,
so
they probably infused Kree blood in there. That probably turned her more into Kree. She's not human. She's definitely not human anymore.
Like those other people, because what the Red Skull did was just make a giant laser with it.
Exactly. So absolutely. So my first question to you: do you think this is a social justice movie? Because this is one of the main criticisms. This movie has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes by human viewers or like regular viewers, not critics. And what I'm getting a lot of when I was just scrolling through those comments, oh, if you're a man, you're not gonna like it. Turn it off. Did you find that?
No, I didn't really. And the funny thing is, the way it was marketed, they marketed it like it was a
stupid marketing. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, the way they marketed it was not how the movie actually looked. Like when I watched it, I'm like, there's not really much like, and the aspect they drew from like for feminism was true though. Like it's not like it's wrong. Like that wasn't a real issue back in the 90s.
And this is why not even 90s, right? 1989, right? Yeah. And this is to me is the big aspect to it. Yes, the issue of sexism is in the movie. But it's not blatant. They don't belabor this point in saying that men are evil in this movie at all.
Yeah, it's not pounding your head. It's not pounding your head at all.
When she's getting knocked down, she's not saying, oh, you're a woman, you can't do it. It's, you're a human, you're not good enough. And it's like, yeah, exactly, I'm a human.
This is social justice for humans, man.
100%. You know,
it's sick and tired of this human propaganda. Like, showing aliens as terrible people.
It's true though. Hey, we're all human. That's the one thing we can all agree upon. We should be able to all hold on to, that we're all human. But I don't see it like, you know, it's a strong female character, and I think the marketing was done wrong on this movie.
Yeah.
You know, why make it about being a woman? You have a good strong character. Mm-hmm. If you make something about being a woman, or if you make something about being a man, you've alienated half of the country, half of the planet.
Well, technically, there's more women than men.
Yeah, 51 to 49. It's not. It's half. It's close enough.
That's a lot when there's billions of people on the planet.
You get one of my points. So I don't see it like that at all, and I think that making it in the 80s it adds to it. If you make this movie in 2019 like this, I think it does become more. You belittle. Yeah. you belabor the point a little bit more.
Yeah. Plus, some of the stuff that Brie Larson said before was questionable as well.
I know, and I just, a lot of some of the comments I was reading about is the fact that this movie is all about, or it's not like Wonder Woman. You're right, it's not like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was an action movie first and foremost, and it was about women empowerment. It made all of the men characters stupid or weak or flawed. This movie didn't do that. This movie was a solid movie. Are you okay with this being an origin story?
Yeah, I know people get annoyed by origin stories, but I said it at the beginning. I'm okay with origin stories because it builds, like you said, it builds the foundation for them to do more, right? You can't have a Thor Ragnarok. The reason why it's so successful is because of those origin stories, those introductions of Hulk. That's how I feel about it.
So,
or Civil War. There would be no Civil War if it wasn't for all those origin stories.
100%. You need origin stories. They're the foundation. No foundation, you don't have anything. One of the criticisms I read, and I think this is such a stupid criticism, but I'm going to ask you about it anyway. What did you think of the fact they called themselves Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh, that's one of the...
Well, if you watch the first Iron Man movie, they didn't call it S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. Remember, Coulson always did the whole acronym, and then the joke was, that's really long, and Coulson was always like, we're working on it.
Oh.
And at the end, they call it S.H.I.E.L.D. for the first time.
I guess it's kind of...
I say to that criticism, that was for the fans, right? They didn't know where they were going with it. It was always S.H.I.E.L.D., but it was a tease. It was there for the fans to kind of, at least an on-running joke. They didn't need to do it this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. That was one thing.
I didn't even know people were upset about that.
So one of the criticisms I found on the other side, maybe the people that wanted it to be a social justice movie, said that they shackled Captain Marvel throughout the movie. Do you agree?
What do you mean shackled?
Shackled her. They kept her powers hidden the entire time. They never let her be herself.
Did we watch the same movie?
Well, in the third act she did, but they shackled her in the first two acts.
Well, yeah, that's because it was about her becoming herself, right? I don't know. Sometimes I don't think people kind of watch the movies, but yeah, the whole point was, at the end of the movie, she got super powered up. We saw her take out giant nukes, like planet-destroying nukes, and chuck it off, and then
if you
shoot down a spaceship.
And if you're looking at good Marvel movies, you do lose your powers. Think of Thor Ragnarok. He was a useless piece of crap for half the movie.
Yeah, he lost his hammer.
And then he was turned into slavery. Or in Iron Man 3, right? He loses all of his suits, right? Like, it's part of the universe that you go through some adversity. In fact, that's what made that's what made this movie so good. Like, to me, the first two acts are so good. I personally think that Ronin scene shouldn't have been in the movie.
Yeah, I remember you did not like that scene.
This is not, to me, like, one of the things that Marvel does very good is in their individual movies, they don't make them pure action movies. That they're always something to go with it. So, like, Captain America's Winter Soldier, it's like a political thriller. Ant-Man is like a heist movie. To me, like, Captain Marvel is more of a buddy cop movie, right? Between, like, Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson in the car together, like solving a crime.
Fair enough.
A mystery, right? That's what it is, right? The mystery of Carol's past. Mm-hmm. And it's not an action movie. If you put too much action in this movie, then think of it like this. How are they going to work her into Endgame? If she can just take on an entire army by herself, why is she going to need help? You need to limit them in their individual movies so they're good in their big movies.
Sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder, but just to that point, they always dumb down. Like, Hulk's not as powerful as he is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Thor's not as powerful as he's supposed to be.
Because how do you relate them with Captain America, or with Iron Man, or with Black Bloody Widow? Like, how do you do that? She's just kind of a human.
Yeah.
If you want to, you have to dumb them down. The most important thing for Endgame is their ability to gel. You do not want to get into a Justice League situation where all the Justice League members struggle to beat Steppenwolf, and then Superman comes in and just like, boop,
One shots
One
him,
shots him.
which is weird. I mean, Aquaman's not a pushover. They made Superman way too powerful in that.
But he
one.
is supposed to be the strongest. But that's the
Superman
problem.
is the strongest, but Aquaman's
Or
up there. And
even
stuff,
even
so
in
he's
Batman
Wonder Woman.
versus Superman when they're fighting Darkseid or whatever his name is. Is that what the villain from Batman vs Superman?
No, it's not Darkseid.
What's
It's
it?
Doomsday.
Doomsday.
This guy's a Superman fan. That's his favorite superhero, by the way.
Up. The point is, Batman was useless in that fight. It was all he was just hiding in the corner.
No, he shot that kryptonite glass one canister in his face.
No, I'm talking about when they were fighting Doomsday.
Yeah, no, he did shoot that.
Okay,
shot
fair
one.
enough.
You
Fair
know?
enough. The last thing I want to talk about before going into our criticisms is you know what? No, I think that's good. What are some of your criticisms of this movie?
The eye from Nick Fury. The that scene that you said about the Pegasus,
Arrested?
the Pegasus scene, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
My main criticism was going to be the cat because I was so upset. Like this cat seemed out of place. But when I did my rewatch on it this afternoon, I realized that Dr. Larson brought the cat to Earth. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So
Okay.
totally makes sense. So I was good with the cat.
Okay.
I've got really 3 criticisms, and 2 of them are kind of not really related to this movie. So I'll start with the one related to this movie, the Tesseract. I don't know if it's a criticism or not, but I don't understand how the Tesseract gets in the possession of Pegasus. So Howard Stark finds the Tesseract at the end of First Avenger. So are we just under the assumption that the Air Force and NASA are working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and they gave them the Tesseract? Or maybe Howard Stark was somewhat involved in Pegasus and that's how they got it?
It could be.
So I just don't understand.
Yeah, I want a more. That's what I was.
That was the one thing I was like, wait a minute, how did they get the Tesseract? Because it was in Stark's possession, but I thought it was in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s possession, right out because Stark helped start S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So I thought maybe that was it. So I don't understand that. So that's one of them. My second one is again.
Wasn't Stark killed? He was killed in '92, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he would have probably given it to S.H.I.E.L.D. before then.
Yeah,
and that was 80, and that was 89 that happened.
Yeah.
That Carol got lost.
Yeah, but back then the Tesseract was there the whole time.
Yeah, so it would have been before he died, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
If he died in 92, right?
That's true.
In 89, it would have been locked on that ship for 6 years. So I don't know. That's one thing I would have liked to know more of. My second criticism is Captain Marvel. Why is she named Captain Marvel? Like they never actually name her that in this movie. Do we realize this?
Yeah. Well, technically that is her name in the comics, and because she's probably gonna name herself after Marvel.
Yes, that's what my assumption is.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I guess that's and that leads me to my last criticism. Okay, and this is not the fault of. I blame Kevin Feige for this.
What? This
movie's out of place. This movie needed to be shot 3 years ago or come out 3 years ago because to me, it doesn't answer a couple things. So first, where's she been? It doesn't answer that. It doesn't give us that answer because here's the thing. So Ronan's in this movie, and do you remember Ronan's last words?
We need to use her.
No, we're coming back for her.
Yeah.
So does she come back for her? There seems to be Ronan's dead now because in Guardians, right?
Yeah.
So what happened to that? And we've met the Kree in Guardians of the Galaxy.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we know them. So the questions become, to at least for me, is this movie, there needed to be another Captain Marvel movie before Endgame. Now, I'm fine with a lot of this movie. The only thing I really would have changed was I would have made the Ronin sequence in the second movie when she kind of really starts to develop her powers.
Yeah.
I would have kept it more as an origin story.
They kept her like Doctor Strange level in the first movie. Not even Doctor Strange has that.
Yeah. So I think there needed to be one more movie. That's probably my biggest criticism. But again, it's not a criticism of this movie. It's a criticism of
the planet of the MCU.
Yeah, and like if they make another Captain Marvel, they're probably going to make another Captain Marvel movie, but I don't think it'll be in the past. Do you?
I think it might be in the past.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going past with
Or
it.
they might explain what happens in Endgame.
Maybe, but I don't think they want to make
They
Endgame
have
about
to,
her.
right? They have to because they have Ronan. They might want to explain what happens with Ronan and everything like that.
I guess we'll find out. I just think that there's stuff missing. Like
they even have that other guy from Guardians.
And like, why wouldn't she come back? Right, her best friend, her niece, like they're there. Why wouldn't she?
Came back to visit.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just so much there's missing in another movie.
Maybe Rogue stole her powers.
Wow.
Like in the comic books.
Okay. I don't want to talk about that because they don't own the X-Men quite yet. But the point I really want to focus on before we end this is that there needed to be a movie in between the Captain Marvel and Endgame that tells us where Captain Marvel's been. Something like where we know where Captain America was. He was stuck in ice.
Yeah.
It made sense. There needed to be something for the audience. Now, they could explain an Endgame, and that criticism could be gone, but I think it's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a very fair criticism.
So,
I guess you're not a fanboy.
What are you giving this movie out of 10?
I'm going to give it, based on what you said, I'll give it an 8.5.
8.5? I'm going to give it a 9.
What?
Because
you talked so much crap about it.
What crap did I talk? My crap is not even about the movie.
Okay.
Like you said, it can be explained in Endgame, and at the end of the day, it's still a good movie. I love the themes of this movie. I love the character development. My criticisms are very superficial. I'm really nitpicking in a lot of my things. Like, oh, they didn't name her Captain Marvel. Really? That's gonna knock you down to like an 8.5? There are more questions. And even the Tesseract, we came up with a possible solution that could be explained in one line of dialogue that they could have left on the cutting room floor.
Okay, fine.
What big criticism did I have of this movie? If
You
anything,
just went ham about not having this, but then again, that's with the MCU, so.
And they could theoretically make another movie that's in the past that connects it better. You can't hold this movie accountable for that. If this movie had come out 3 years ago, I wouldn't have had that criticism. So it's not about the movie itself. It's about in the grand scheme of the time, which can be fixed. So what big criticism did I have?
Okay.
Come on, fanboy.
Fanboy, I'm the one that
You're
gave
calling
it
me a
8.5.
fanboy. Sorry.
You're the fanboy here, not me.
What criticism? I'm just saying, like, why do you give it an 8.5? What's your major criticism? That you dropped it to an 8.5. What your
it's
little
not a
nitpicks?
terrible score. That's a great score.
Because
for
they
a
were
movie.
arrested? That drops it 1.5 of a rating?
No, just the way Fury's eye was explained. I didn't really.
So
like
that drops it. If they don't even explain the eye, if he goes in that movie comes out of that movie with 2 eyes, you're giving it a 10.
Not a 10. I'd give it a probably a 9.
Okay, so where's the other one mark?
The rest. Why are you getting so? See, look
They're
at the
doing a cover-up.
fanboys defending it.
I'm
You're
just
defending
saying.
the movie.
I'm just
What
saying.
is going
You're
on
criticizing
here?
my rating. I just want to know where it's coming from.
Mr. Fanboy.
All right.
Holy. See?
Enough about that. We spent about an hour talking about this movie.
You cannot say anything bad about Marvel around this guy. Let me tell you that.
Oh my god. It's a very well done movie. I highly recommend going to see it in theaters.
And that's what we think of Captain Marvel.
Be sure to check out our other reviews on Fooch Rant on Reels. Don't forget to subscribe and like us on Instagram and like this video.
Peace.